Well, hello, and welcome to the Riverfront Reds show. I am not Tim Daniel. I am Seth Shaner, and I'm here to get us started. Tim will get here as soon as he is available from his parental bedtime duties. I invite you to jump in the chat. We're going to experiment tonight with some live, not only viewer mail, but live quote unquote call in. We'll see how that goes, and we'll see if we can make it work. And as I said, I'm waiting on Tim, and we're going to get him here as soon as possible. And so up until then, we can chat about anything you would like. Here in the chat, I'm going to place the link, and there it is. It should be going in there soon. You can go to that link and check it out. As far as joining me here on the call, we request that we don't get too crazy, obviously, but we've got some Reds baseball to talk about, and the Cincinnati Reds are certainly our favorite thing to discuss. The Reds today played. Actually, they did not play today, so they played yesterday and lost to Texas 5-3 with old friend Tyler Mahle getting the win. So certainly the Reds have been exciting at times this year, and especially with the bats, with Ellie De La Cruz, as we discussed on the Sunday night late night Reds episode with Ben Brown and myself. We had a great time talking about everything Ellie, and certainly that was a good time. And actually yesterday, the highlight of the game for me was Hunter Green going 4 innings with 6 strikeouts and just no runs and just 2 hits overall. So just did a great job yesterday, and looking for a lot out of him, obviously, as we expect him to be the opening day starter. So if you are here joining us live, we thank you. And the idea tonight is for us to allow you guys to kind of dictate where we go with some of the questions and thoughts you might have. And you're certainly welcome to dive on in with some comments in the chat. We'll get to those as they come in. But also, I did put the link there in the chat if you would like to go and come on here with us. So go ahead and feel free to do that as you'd like. And we certainly want any help I can get right now, as Tim Daniel is not here, and tonight is Tim Daniel's night to host. So Tim's got the plan, and he came up with the idea to host you folks a little more face to face if you'd like to. So go ahead and jump in if and when you can. Um, as far as overall Reds news, no news is good news type situation on most injuries, as far as the lack thereof, knock on wood, as compared to past camps. We certainly worry a little bit about Spencer Steer, and we continue to wait to see if the injection he got last weekend will do the trick, as far as maybe letting him get back on the field and that sort of thing. But it sounds like just about everybody else, again, knock on a lot of wood, is doing okay on the field and that sort of thing. As I turned up something there just now. So thanks so much again for joining us. As I mentioned, you are welcome to click on the link that we put in the chat there, and join the show via video here on our platform. If you'd rather type in a question on the chat, you're welcome to do so. Josh Beckley says, "I think Spencer is going to be out for a few months, unfortunately." Yeah, Josh, I unfortunately I tend to agree with you, and mostly because it's just really upsetting the way this has all happened. As was reported at the beginning of spring training, it was something he was dealing with last fall, like at the end of the regular season last year. So it's kind of baffling to me that if he was already dealing with it, that he hasn't decided, or they didn't decide to do something with it over the off season. And as you say, Josh, I agree with you. Rest is what would do his injury the best. But boy, yeah, I don't know all the facts, and I don't think any of us do, as to why, if someone feels a certain injury or pain, as far back as maybe August or September, why it doesn't get looked at and kind of taken care of in those off-season months. Now, certainly the depth, if that's all that's there as far as it being Spencer Steer, the depth that the Reds have built up will help here. I guess Josh, I'd ask you, and I'd ask anybody tuning in, what do you think about maybe having Gavin Lux play some first base? I certainly Encarnacion Strand might be there, Jaimer Candelario. They do have options, and I guess I would rather either see Spencer Steer there if he was healthy, or Spencer Steer in left field. So it's a real bummer for me as a big Spencer Steer fan that he's not out there, because actually it was interesting. I got to be right on the third base dugout in the game when Spencer Steer hit his first home run as a big leaguer there at the end of the 2020, what would that have been? That's the 2022 season, and he hit his first homer. Yeah, CES and Candelario probably are the options in a platoon there at first. I still wonder where Gavin Lux is going to play, because I don't really see him being a third baseman for a full season. I mean, I'm fine putting him there, here or there, for spot starts and things like that. Um, and I would love to see, as you're saying here, Josh, um, CES having a breakout year. We were hoping last year that he would, and of course he had the suspicious, or the mysterious, I should say, broken hand, and ended up missing most of the season. But the idea that he's trimmed down, he looks good. I mean, even Tommy Thrall on broadcasts has mentioned how good he looks in the field, even at third base. Boy, he answers a lot of problems if he becomes a bona fide, as you're saying, 30 home run type guy. I mean, that takes away kind of the need to have signed maybe another bat or two. If a guy like CES, if CES could hit 25 to 30 home runs, and Candelario came through with 35 to 40 doubles, which he's capable of when he was right, all of a sudden you've got the extra bat or two that you were looking for there in the off season that just never came to fruition, especially from the outfield. Other news and notes: Red Leg Roundtable aired the other day with an interview with Chris Garber. Chris and Chad Dotson, our very own Chad Dotson, co-authored the book you see behind me, The Big 50, and they've got their second edition that just came out. And Chris and I had a really good conversation with each other about the new book, but also some memories of being Reds fans and things like that over the years. And so I would point you toward that. Owen Timmerding and I hosted this week's regular Welcome to the Jungle episode, and that was eventful because we were talking about T. Higgins officially being tagged, but then also the fact that Alex Kappa had been cut, and subsequently, since we recorded that show, he has reportedly signed with the Raiders, or will sign with the Raiders. And then Tim, Daniel, and Owen teamed up yesterday for an emergency pod because hometown favorite Sam Hubbard went ahead and called it a career. And we have our first caller, as it were. We've had viewer mail for years, even before we had video. And we welcome to the stage Brandon Kamick. Brandon, thanks so much for being our first ever caller.
Yeah, first time caller, long time listener.
This is true.
Yeah, just wanted to pop on and say, Red Leg Roundtable, I love the work that you're doing there. It's just really cool to hear the stories with all the guys that you've been able to round up there. But wanted to pop on for kind of a quick vibe check too. I feel like on Slack and with some of my questions that I can come off as pessimistic sometimes, but I think that's really just the mental struggle that we come with as being Reds fans.
Yes.
I am super encouraged by teaming up Tito with this young team that we have right now. And I am usually in the camp that baseball managers don't really affect a lot of what goes on in the field, but I feel like he might be the one exception. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes this year.
Yeah, if he's not the one exception, he's one of very few. All right. I mean, certainly Bruce Bochy seems to have that kind of vibe. You could argue, especially in a regular season, that Dusty Baker had that for many years. Yeah, I agree with you there, and I appreciate the kind comments on Red Leg Roundtable. That's been a lot of fun to do. I guess I'm kind of like you, Brandon, because you feel beaten down, don't you? And it just feels like over the years, that's what it feels like. They don't seem to try as hard as you like. But I will tell you this: there's been two things that have happened this spring that have kind of turned me into a little more optimistic. Number one was just basically the cracks of the gloves and the bats as spring training started, and then that first game or two to see Matt McLean healthy, and to see some of the things that were happening there with him hitting the ball hard right away, and then obviously to see Ellie do what he did. So that was good. But also, I was kind of reminded, it didn't feel to me like they did enough in the offseason, and I still think they should have added another outfield bat. But you look at the number of transactions they actually moved compared to other teams, they've done quite a bit to bolster this team.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, kind of the same thoughts. Like if you look across the board in the Central, like Kyle Tucker was a great move, obviously, and Ryan Presley was a good move for the Cubs as well. But otherwise, like, what else did anybody else do? The Brewers lost Devin Williams. They lost Willie Adames. The Cardinals kind of have the most panned offseason of anybody. The Pirates didn't add anybody. Like I agree that I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't do more to add to the offense, but I really like what they did with the depth with the pitching, and I just think the young guys they have in there. You mentioned McLean and some of the others. I'm a little bit more on the downside on CES than others, but I mean, if he has a hot season, then all of a sudden, like they're looking pretty sharp. So I kind of consider myself to be in the lost generation that Chad Dotson talks about a little bit. I was born in '87, so I was 3 for the last World Series, and I was 8 for the last playoff series win. So just looking forward to seeing something positive for the first time in a while.
Yeah, we have been beaten down quite a bit. I guess I would say if on CES, even if he is just a home run type guy, right? I mean, as I look across this lineup, I see different characteristics. Like we went through that era where everybody was just trying to do exit velocity, right? And everything. It seemed like even before that was even a phrase, it was just everybody just trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark. And what people forget, and that's why I like Friedel so much. You know what I mean? Like some of these guys can have different roles. And the Reds right now, as far as like last year and as we look at this year, they don't have just that guy that just hit. Like what he does is hit the long ball. All right. I mean, Ellie's going to keep hitting more long balls, but he's going to do so much more as well. So I kind of look forward to if CES. I mean, look, I'd love to hit 275, 280 and get on base at a 350 clip. That'd be amazing. But I doubt that's going to happen. But I guess the big thing is for me to see more power. That'd be great. Let's see. Josh Beckley, he kind of disagrees with you, I think. CES played good defense in 23, and the word in camp is he's looking good this year as well. Best shape of his life, Josh, right? Right? That's what I keep hearing. I got word just now Tim Daniels on his way. Brandon, did you have anything else for us?
No, I'm good. Thanks for letting me hop on for a second. Y'all have a good one.
Well, thanks again for your kind words about Red Leg Roundtable. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, we have Adam from Milwaukee here. Hello. Is Scott Hatterberg good, Adam?
You like Scott Hatterberg? What's up, buddy? How are you?
Oh, not bad. How you been?
Not too bad.
I appreciate you dropping in. We've got some good folks in the chat. We've got more and more tuning in live. This is a new venture that came out of nowhere today.
Get your butts on here. It's fun and entertaining. So I got a question for you.
Yep.
And again, obviously, you know me. You know my camera's all kinds of goofed up right now. What is happening?
I don't know
Anyway,
if I've ever seen you without a hat.
It's glorious. I grew my hair back, and then I just got a really crazy short haircut yesterday. But it's
Okay.
I've got a little bit of lettuce, not much. So I'm more on the pessimistic side because I'm a hater, as the youngins say. Hey, I know that guy in the bottom.
There he is.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
Hey, dude.
Oh boy, this is gonna
What's that?
oh boy, this is gonna be good.
All right, you're pessimistic.
First off, with Spencer Steer's injury, the Reds were going into 2025 with the worst outfield in the majors. Now with Spencer Steer, who knows what's going on with him? It's only going to get worse than that. I think this is a low 80 win team. Give me a logical reason why they're not out there moving heaven and earth to try to get Luis Robert. And again, like I understand, like they don't want to give up 2 other top prospects, which understood, but you know what's better than having a good minor league system? Having good guys on the major league roster.
Yeah, Casey Stern always, what do you say? Prospects are cool, parades are cooler.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Yeah,
Flags.
no, I think especially on this channel, most of us feel the same way.
Yeah.
I would not have I would not have done Burns or Louder and Arroyo for Luis Robert. I would not have done that. I mean, I don't. I agree with you mostly about prospects, but I wouldn't have done basically 3 guys who are going to be on the big club within the next year and a half minimum, and some of them this year. So I wouldn't have done that, but there is a hole there, and especially you're right. If Spencer Steer can't play outfield, then Austin Hayes is going to have another All-Star caliber season.
Yeah, and we're expecting him to turn back the clock a couple years too. The other thought, and again, I'm spewing my nonsensical opinions with you guys. I'm sorry, my daughter's about to go to bed here, so can I?
Just went through that myself, though.
What's that?
Just went through that myself.
Well, I'm talking with people. I'm not really talking. They're recording. I'm talking to them while they're recording. Are we also overestimating how much value Tito's going to bring? Like Tito's a Hall of Fame manager. He's one of the, and I've talked about many times, there are 5 great managers, 5 bad managers, and 20 guys in the middle. And Tito's definitely one of those 5 great managers. It seems like we're putting so much weight with him being the manager. Like he's not the one out there pitching in the 7th, 8th inning, or he's not the one playing left field.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, but I would say if you don't have the injury bad luck that they had last year, and you look at the fact that they added Brady Singer, they added to the bullpen, they've added, Lux and Hayes. I mean, if they're going to have some injuries, I understand, but if they have a little better luck this year than they did last year, is Tito worth 3 wins, 4 wins? Maybe.
I think so.
And that's what I want. Like, it's hard to put a value on a manager, and I don't think David Bell was one of the 5 bad managers. I think he was in the middle, and he was not given good teams. They absolutely raised the floor of this team, which is I would have liked for them to add to the ceiling a little bit, but they absolutely raised the floor with the pitching staff, starters, and the bullpen. But he's not taking a team that won 77 games last year. Again, with all the injuries and everything, yeah, this probably would have been an 83, 84 win team last year without injuries, but I now have a ghost behind me. He's not taking them to 87 to 90 wins to helping them win the division. I don't know. Like managers get too much credit and too much blame, and I don't know. I'm trying to be optimistic, acknowledging that they're stronger in positions than they were last year, and that while acknowledging where their weaknesses are. But I guess talk me off the ledge that he can that Tito is worth 5-6 wins.
Well, even if we said he's only worth 3 or 4, but then if you think about the fact that basically the whole team had a sophomore slump last year.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they won over 80 games the year before with really a worse roster.
Yeah.
So if you look at those 2 things combined, and again, the health is the big thing.
Yeah.
Then you see him make a jump, and maybe people wrongfully credit 8 to 10 wins to Tito, and
right.
I don't care if they make the playoffs. That's okay.
Yeah.
Give whoever you want to give the credit to.
Yeah,
for sure. So,
all right, we've got the link up there on the front there. It's at the top of the scroll on the chat as well. People are welcome to jump in or dive in on the comments as well. Tim, you can take over if you had any way you want this direction to go tonight. You're welcome to go ahead and take over the ship.
Sweet. Let me find where my feed is here. This is what happens when you log on late. My apologies, everybody. Had to take care of a kid. So, Seth, I got to catch a little bit of what you were saying earlier, and it was nice. It was very, I really enjoyed your talking about your highlight of yesterday being Hunter Green, which is fair because he did finally have a nice outing. But how dare you overlook the fact that Chase Burns made his big league debut?
I don't know that I overlooked it. I maybe just didn't get to it yet.
Yeah. So
Nasty.
Yeah, looked good.
9. Let's see. We had 3 strikeouts, 1 walk, and 1 inning pitched. It was pretty nice. The way he was just dotting his fastball was pretty fun to watch.
They from what it looked like they're putting his slider in as a cutter in Gamecast and everything, but he had a 0.0 like 100% like swings and misses. Like no one made contact with his with the cutter or the slider, whatever the heck it actually really was. So, do you think he's going to be up sooner than Louder was last year?
No, I just feel like there's like it would take some injuries, but I've talked to our buddy Jack Mueller, who is part of our team, mentioned that one, he's going to project to be better than Hunter Green is, which is,
Ooh.
yeah, he does literally project to be better. And 2 is that if it comes to like, say they are in this race that we all think they can be in, and they get to down the stretch in September, and God forbid someone goes down. There's no like, well, here comes Connor Phillips to start this game now. It's
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's a lot better now. So Rhett kind of coming up at the end. I don't know. I think that's kind of more when we'll see him, but would it necessarily shock me if he's up in July? Probably not.
Well, here's one for you, and it might just be a departure from organizational philosophy, but might he become the 2006 Adam Wainwright, who comes in and just helps? He only has X amount of innings left. He comes in the last 6 weeks of the season and pitches out of the bullpen. Maybe 1 inning at a time, or maybe a couple of games he goes 2, 3, 4 innings. But that would be interesting because he would be throwing some serious gas. It was for a shorter amount of pitches.
Yeah, did you see this in the Slack today? What Brandon's saying?
Yeah, Tyler Naquin, the pitcher at the Guardians, huh?
Yeah, him and Alex Blandino going to be pitching games against each other in the battle for Ohio this year.
There you go.
Yeah,
they Guardians like that. They turned Anthony Goes into a reliever too.
Yeah, they did. So that's they always find a way to make pitchers make good pitchers out of something, and so you got to give them credit for that.
I hate being envious of them. This
Why?
doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right.
It's not like they're like, are you that passionate about the Ohio Cup?
It's more the fact that they haven't won a World Series since 1948, and they're a lot closer and have been a lot closer since 1993 than the Reds to win another series.
Yeah, so I go back.
It's jealousy.
I've told a little bit of this story, but I go back to my mom lived in Columbus, and all of a sudden the cable company, they had only allowed 1 game to be shown. So it would always pick by the mid 90s, the Cleveland game, because they were the hip team, right? And
yeah.
If you go anywhere prior to 1993, you use that year very wisely. If you go anywhere in Columbus prior to 1993, it was a Reds town up here. And the minute the Jake opened in 94, all of a sudden, you get this wave of fans, and they had that long sellout streak, and they had some great teams in the mid to late 90s. There's no doubt they did. But, man, it felt like to me, as a Reds fan my whole life, who never even heard of hardly any Cleveland fans around town, then it's like, wait a minute, what is going on here? And no, I get pretty bitter about it too for those reasons.
Doesn't bother me at all.
What's that?
Doesn't bother me at all. If they're good, awesome. If they're not, they're not. And besides, there's going to be a Cleveland team that's going to win a title this year anyway, so they don't have to worry about much.
Okay. Yeah, I was raised to dislike pretty much everything.
Yeah, Lake Erie Monsters are the team we're talking about, Seth.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Tim picked a hell of a year to jump into
didn't I?
Start covering they've been good for a couple years. It's not like they came out of nowhere, but man.
They came out of nowhere to be this good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Shout out Kenny Atkinson. He makes it fun. That's my other shows. So any comments, questions? I see Pat Magooch did end up back in here. So you're going to hop in and, join us for this chat. We would love to have you. That's the goal of today's show. Just kind of wing it and get some vibes checks in. I saw Brandon hopped in before I got on, so I missed you, buddy. I really appreciate you hanging out. really mad Sydney's not here. I'm gonna have a conversation with her later about that because she told me she would be, because she said she had Pete Rose comments, but I will not allow those anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true.
Do you have any thoughts about the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson? And
So,
I know this isn't Welcome to the Jungle, but
so yes. But I want to make sure I get this out there real quick. Tomorrow, Seth, I haven't even told you this yet. We are going to do a special Welcome to the Jungle where Owen is going to kind of talk this out with our new host, Caroline Palmer.
All right.
So she's going to be making her debut. So I'm really excited to bring Caroline in. Caroline's actually a soccer player at Miami of Ohio, go Red Hawks. And she's going to be coming in. So it's going to be awesome. Brent, sorry to ask how you got a kid before bed before 9 p.m., but you weren't available, so it answered my question. Yes, truth that. But yeah, I mean, here's where I'm at on it. And I think the conversation is everyone's kind of jumping to what are the Bengals doing? What are the Bengals doing? What are the Bengals doing? And I get that. I do. But this isn't like this is the first time this has happened in the NFL, let alone this offseason.
yeah.
I mean, the Rams literally just went to Matt Stafford and were like, hey, find someone out there who will offer you something. Well, if there's something that works, we'll make a deal. So I feel like we should probably calm down a little bit because we don't know how this is going to turn out. Remember, this guy, he asked for a trade last offseason.
Yeah.
And when he poured the training camp, the first thing he said was, I love Cincinnati. I want to be here. I love this team. And so I don't have any reason to think otherwise, but I do want to say, as someone who has been very pro, bring T. Higgins back and still stand on that. If it was between Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins, I love Joe Burrow. I understand Joe Burrow wants T. Higgins. I would have to pick Trey Hendrickson.
So there's a couple, and again, like it's weird being here because I'm not even a guest. I'm just someone who just jumped onto your guys live. This is a weird.
Yeah,
spot for
we're
me.
letting you hear till someone else comes on.
Yeah, I'd like.
That's kind of what I figured. I mean, so please, someone kick me off. There are three different ways to look at it. Yeah, it's the way to look at it like Matthew Stafford, to where like they're kind of like they've got a ballpark of where they want to be, but he thinks he might be worth more. And Bengals like, cool, go work with the team, see what they'll give you, come back to us with a number. And if it's something that they're willing to work with, or if he finds out I'm 30 years old, I'm going to be 31 at the end of the season, and pass rush production absolutely just falls off a cliff when you hit 30, 31 years old. And he's not getting anywhere near what Max Crosby just got, which I think that's where they're going. Or I think that's what he's looking. And if he's not around there, he's closer to like 30 million, then maybe the Bengals will renegotiate, take it back to the table. And keep him in, which again, cool. There's enough money to take care of everything they need to do. The other thought is he's 31, going to be 31 years old at the end of the season. Get what you can get for him now. Your defense was awful with him last year. It's going to be awful without him. Totally just refresh. You've got a new defensive coordinator. Let him bring in all of his guys. Yeah, it's not going to, you're not going to replace Trey Hendrickson, his ability, his 17.5 sacks that last 2 years, each year. Just basically give him a blank slate. I mean, you're losing literally everybody else from the defensive line. You're losing your linebacker is going to be gone. You're losing guys from the secondary. Mike Hilton was a free agent, so it's not like they waived him, but Mike Hilton already said his goodbyes. And the third thing is the Bengals are just cheap and they're lowballing everybody and they're going to screw everything up, and they're not going to sign T, and Jamar is going to begrudgingly sign here, and then Joe Burrow is going to turn into Carson Palmer. So it's one of those three options. Obviously, we're all Bengals fans. We're all old enough to know where this team is and how they operate, to know that, yeah, they're lowballing everybody because they're a family full of attorneys and they don't like losing any negotiation, whether it's for a free agent or a trade or anything. But,
well, what you just said, if you work backwards from what you said, Brandon came in with the question about the Reds, saying that he's in that lost generation, shell shocked is a good word. I would argue the Bengals fans that have been here since the early 90s or before, which I have, but especially if you didn't experience the Super Bowl run in '88, which I did, then you certainly feel like I think the Bengals fans have much more reasons to be shell shocked and scared of, the whole thing, house of cards falling apart, And
Yeah.
that's just you can't. I don't even think the Brown family, if they were honest, could blame us for feeling that way sometimes. But the facts are the facts, and this organization doesn't like giving contract extensions to people 30 or over. And you've already pointed that side of it out. And of all the franchises for him to want to do a deal, it's the Bengals. And
Yeah.
I don't see them unless he's one to really work with them. I just don't see it happening that easily. And I think this is a power play, as you said. I think there's still plenty of time on the receivers, and unless the two receivers just decide to both just be unwilling to work with what they know the Bengals to be, because I don't think with Jamar especially, I don't think it's a question. You're going to get paid more than Jefferson.
Yeah.
You're going to get paid $40 million a year ish, give or take a couple $100,000 a year side, and if all we're divided on now is the language and when you get the money and how it's deferred or not, then that's the way it is, and that's the way the Bengals do business. But the money's going to be the money.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all about Jamar. If T has to play one more year on a tag, so be it. But I think he'll get a long-term deal too. And then I never have thought for sure that they're going to do Trey. So I guess today shows I was kind of possibly right. But I think you're right, Tim, that move to say, see what you can get, and then you come back, and then maybe it's not what you thought because you are 30. So
Yeah, it's interesting because lost where I was going for a second there. It's just frustrating. Like if you guys have a team that you dislike, like tell me and I'll be a fan of them, and they'll start sucking. Like every single team that like I root for, like they're completely like my Bearcats in football and basketball, they're lost. There's hope with the Reds, but who knows where they're gonna go. The Bengals, I think they've completely lost all the goodwill from 2021. There's literally nobody left on the defensive side from that team outside of Logan Wilson. Um, I don't know. There's the way they structure deals are so arcane. They talk about they don't like to guarantee so much money up front because they're a small market team. They don't have that kind of cash flow. They're worth $4 billion, and every bank in the entire United States and in the world will give them a near zero interest rate on a loan to put money in a bank, in escrow, to put guarantees. They just don't want to. They just don't want to structure them that way because they want to hold firm and they want to like sign guys their way. And it's just we don't care as fans. I don't care how it's structured. Figure it out. Like take a loan. Or here's an idea: find some private equity firm like the Eagles, who, again, not every team operates like the Eagles. They are the most well-run football organization in the NFL. Just won the Super Bowl. They've got the best roster. They're still paying guys. They just re-signed Zach Bond, and they just sold 8% to a private equity firm, which means more cash, more money to put guarantees and everything. It's just this is why I drink. I drink so much more in the past couple years than I ever have, and this is part of it.
Well,
I'll leave you guys on that for the night.
yeah, don't let us keep you from tonight, though.
yeah, I mean, well, Joe, thanks for checking in, man. It's good to hear from you. Shout out Joe's Tab before we get out of here, man.
Oh yeah. So I had some dude here in the middle of the screen on my second episode. It's at Joe's Tavern Show on YouTube and on Twitter and all that fun stuff. The next episode coming up, I've got Paul Hirons, who is Houday UK. He is the Bengals International Fan of the Year. I'll be recording with him this weekend. Awesome guy. I got to meet him October, November. He was in town. I got to meet him in person and a couple of guys from the other side of the pond. So it should be a fun one. So
that's awesome, man. Well, cool. Well, keep going. Good luck with it, man. I really was excited to be a part of it. So all the best, man. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks guys.
See you, Joe.
All right, man. So we got Joe Farfsing hanging out. We've got Brandon Kamek coming in. Who's next? Who's next to join us here on Riverfront Live?
Come on, Pat.
Yeah, Pat. You told me on Blue Sky that you may participate. Well, you may see the link right there on the screen to join us in such a thing. I did what I did real quick. I know we joked about for a second, but I know we're going off of one inning, so we don't have a whole lot to talk about there. But Chase Burns, that was super impressive. And then just kind of seeing what he was able to just locate his fastball, paint corners. I know that this is like, it's hard to not be giddy because it's all we have. I know he got reassigned today back to the minor league camp, and he's going to be on the spring showcase roster, which we can get to that as well. But I'm in the group that really thought Charlie Condon was going to be a Cincinnati Red in June.
Me too.
And really wanted Charlie Condon. And so, your first impression that we got from Chase Burns is maybe we're not going to miss as much as we thought we would, but I'm really, really excited to see what more he brings.
If someone had told me last summer that Burns, not even that he profiles as being better than Hunter Green, if somebody told me that and actually kind of had gone in the future and seen it, then I would have been happy, because you need pitching so badly. And as much as I wanted Condon, or thought that was the only logical place to turn, I just didn't. I guess I didn't realize going into it that Burns would be this good or that good. And so even if he's just if he profiles out as like a number 2 starter in the league, then yeah, and you cross your fingers and hope for good health, and then go from there. But and the other problem too is you look at the woeful outfield offensive play last year and what looks like. I'm heartened a little bit by TJ Friedel being healthy, and I'm also heartened by Austin Hayes looking good so far. So I think at the end of the day, it's going to be good. What was Brandon said? I fully changed my mind on Burns Condon when I saw what guys like Montas were going for in free agency. That's right. I mean,
that's a great point.
It absolutely is. You could have 6+ years of control for Burns as far as being a starting pitcher. And but the problem is, you look back at the 1992 draft when they had just traded Eric Davis, and they wanted to take Derek Jeter. And they said, well, he plays shortstop and we already have Barry Larkin. And they said, well, you could play him in center field or move Larkin to center field if it became that way. And but no, they wanted a power hitter, so they took Chad Mottola. And my brother-in-law's brother actually played high school baseball with Chad Mottola, so that's kind of cool. But you can't draft for a power hitting outfielder because your outfield is not so good right now, because it's still going to be how many years, even for a college player, maybe 1 to 3 before he's a full part of the outfield. So
I know Travis Pisana might play for the Guardians this year. Like, that might happen. He's pretty good.
But the Reds couldn't have taken him. He was already gone.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So spring breakout roster was announced today. The Reds are playing. It'll be March 16th against the Brewers spring breakout. So here is the group of guys. I'll go real quick. Pitchers, we have Chase Burns, Arch Franson, Luke Hayden, Zach Maxwell, Luis May, Chase Petty, Connor Phillips, Cole Schweidel. Don't even ask. And Adam Serwanowski. Catchers, we have Connor Burns, Alfredo Duno, Michael Trotwine. Infielders, we have Edwin Arroyo, Leandro Balcazar, Ricardo Cabrera, Tyler Callahan, Cam Collier, Tyson Lewis, Sammy Stafura, Sal Stewart, and Peyton Stovall. And outfielders, we have Jay Allen, Kyle Henley, Carlos Jorge, Arnaldo Lantigua, Ethan O'Donnell, and Hector Rodriguez. So, Seth, I'm kind of excited to see this.
Oh, yeah. It's an exciting game / event. But when you read the outfielders, what was the last one? Hector
Rodriguez?
Rodriguez, yes. That guy can't get here fast enough.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you look at the outfielders, you look at the top, Keith Law or some of the different places that rank prospects, and it's like the first outfielder on the Reds list isn't till like way down there. And there's no outfielders with an expected arrival date before like 26 or 27. And it makes me kind of sad. And I guess they have made a few trades. They've traded for a starting pitcher. They've traded for a relief pitcher, traded for a backup catcher, all things they needed. But at this point, if they're going to make any moves at all between now and July, it needs to be for a guy that can play the outfield and can really just be a guy you put there and he's going to play.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, where I'm frustrated is not necessarily that I don't think they did a good job, because I do think the guys they brought in are really going to help the team. Where I was frustrated is they waited so long to really make a run at it, to where we did kind of we're all screaming in the Slack chat every day, like, what are they doing? Why are we watching all these guys go by? The Luis Robert thing, Joe talked about it. I've talked about it. You've talked about it. Yeah, I would like to have him. But also that is a big risk. Like if he just flat out continue to be injured like he has for a long time, he has one fully healthy year, and that one fully healthy year, he was incredible. He was awesome. But also, other than that, has not played a fully healthy season. Steve and Jeff will tell you all about that if you listen to Locked On, because we've gone against me on this before.
Steve was definitely against you on this one.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And that's fine. He's allowed to be. We're still friends. He's in Canada right now, so he doesn't care about anything.
And he goes all over the place.
Yeah. Life's tough for Steve Hoffman.
Lives in Hawaii, comes to Ohio for Reds games 3-4 times a year.
Yeah. And so there's certainly that there where, I wonder if the Reds really wondered if the reward was worth it. Because I think it came down to there was something in the financials were the other hang up. And whatever. But yeah, I would like to have him, but who knows? Maybe the deal changes by come July. Maybe he has a decent year. The White Sox are still like 95 games out of it at that point, and the Reds are still in the race, and they can probably make a better deal at that point. That's more beneficial to them. So,
well, we just had last week, Joe Luckup was on with me, and he said that the only guy that could displace Ellie from shortstop is Arroyo. And not that will happen, but he's got the glove to do it. And if he gets the hit tool to come around just a little bit, he'll be a big leaguer. So you're talking about 6 years of him. You're talking about 6+ years of Burns or Louder. I mean, it's just to trade 2 of those 3 is just too much for Luis Robert. So I don't know. I they played the Dodgers the other night, and I really kind of was longing for Teoscar. They should have signed him. They should have signed him before last year, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
And they didn't. And then he just held out until the Dodgers came back to him, and he got to go home back to L.A. So that was a big one. And Conforto, I think he's in San Francisco, and he was another one I kind of liked. So
Santander in Toronto now, and
I what he ended up getting, and again, like, I guess I talk out of both sides of my mouth, because then I see a guy sign for that much. I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have given him that much, but it's not my money. So, what do I care if the Reds do? But I trust.
That's my point about everything. That's literally my point about everything. It drives me crazy.
What's that?
When people just get so hung up in salaries, like, what do we care? Like, we're not.
Well, no. Now, listen, it doesn't mean I want him to sign a bunch of Mike Moustakas and
sure. You're right.
Yamas. I mean, I don't want them to spend foolishly. So I guess I can I can be objective about whether or not I think they made a good move or not, right? Like, I wouldn't have given him that much, Santander, okay? But at the same time, at some point, like, I remember when Jason Worth signed that free agent deal with Washington, and they were such a moribund franchise. They paid almost a third more than anybody else was willing to give him. Yeah. And he was going to go somewhere else for less, because nobody wanted to play in Washington. But he started the dominoes rolling, and then all of a sudden they start falling, and you get 2 number 1 overall picks, and they come up, and they're Bryce Harper and Strasburg, and they end up winning a World Series out of all that.
Yeah, and then they win a World Series, and they're not stuck with Anthony Rendon, so they really won.
Yeah, I saw it the other day. It was like the Nats have started like X amount of third basemen since Rendon left, and it was actually the Angels have played more third basemen than the Nats have since Rendon signed with them.
Yeah, one of those national third basemen was Nick Senzel.
That's right. Yeah. And he got hurt before the opening day started last year in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I don't want to say poetic justice. That's not the right term, but just on brand, so on brand.
Let's just say we all just nodded our heads. Yes, that makes total sense. Yes.
Yeah. When he broke his finger, wasn't it? Yeah, like
that's right.
Oh my gosh. What a name on there that popped up I wanted to talk about real fast that I'm pretty excited about is Sammy Stafora.
Mm-hmm.
High school, 2nd round pick. I was really, really excited. I didn't know anything about him when he was drafted, but following him last year up through the system and what he was doing in those different levels, certainly was really impressive. And so I really, really got excited about him. I don't know what his future is with the team by any means, but really genuinely curious to see what he brings in the spring breakout game, to see what he can, I'm not saying this one game is going to tell us what they contribute to the Reds' future, but there's a lot to be excited about with what you've seen from him. There's little things we've seen from him so far.
Oh yeah, and Sal Stewart, and
Yeah,
I mean, is Cam Collier okay? I don't know. I'd read
haven't
some.
heard an update.
Yeah, I'd read something about a bit of a tweak or something, but hopeful. Although I was amazed at Keith Law. Don't put Brandon Larson on the chat. Come on, I don't want to remember him. Um, even Keith Law brought up that Cam Collier had put on a lot of weight, and and I remember the question being like, "Well, Keith Law wouldn't just say that about somebody to be mean or anything. It must be a real concern." And he does look a little heavier, but if he can hit the baseball, that's kind of what we care about.
Yeah, if he's gonna be Mo Vaughn, that's fine with me.
Well,
Maybe not that big, but
the tools that he displays at the plate, if he can play a reliable third base, are more valuable than if he could do it at first base, obviously.
100%. Yeah,
Because more people can just be plopped down at first base. But
yeah, I agree. Well, hey, like I said, we'll probably go here for another couple more minutes, just see if anyone wants to hop on and give us their opinions. We had Joe, we had Brandon come on. We've got some couple nice messages in the chat, so we will be doing late night Reds this Sunday. I will be back in the chair. It is Grace's birthday, so I will. Yeah, she understands.
Okay, my wife's birthday is actually on Saturday. So,
oh, nice. Yeah,
back-to-back days there.
There we go.
But, are you on one of the positions? Are you?
Yeah, we'll be on third base that night. Yeah, when you filled in for me, you and Ben did shortstop, which is basically just Ellie De La Cruz. So yeah, we'll I timed it correctly to where we will have all the last 4 positions we have we'll have done before opening day. So,
okay. Well, good thing we didn't skip it then.
Yeah. So I didn't feel like you really had to throw any backup shortstop plans in for Ellie De La Cruz. Hopefully not.
We talked a little bit about, obviously Espinal get a few starts there. Maybe Ellie gets a day off, or he gets a DH spot one or 2 days a year, and Espinal plays short. Certainly Gavin Lux could play a game or 2 there if he had to. Again,
McLean same. But,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What are your Matt McLean feelings on the year? Because I know Ben and I had a really fun conversation about him. I cannot wait.
Oh my goodness. I'm even more energized now than I was before spring training, because obviously he's got to get through it healthy. That's going to be the overarching thing on him, because he's not played a full year yet. But everything he brings, including just the energy and the, he is a lot like Dustin Pedroia.
You're right.
He just is that spark plug. And I just feel like, again, if Ellie's the superstar and the shining, like the sun, I guess, that everything else orbits around, Matt McLean is your foundation. Matt McLean is like, I just feel like, again, if he was healthy last year, he could have made such a difference.
Yeah, I completely agree.
We didn't get to see it at all. And I hope he's healthy. I hope he's fine. But I just think the sky's the limit for this guy. I think he's an all-star. Maybe not this year, but at minimum a year or 2 from now.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. I am going to ask you about this, and
Right.
I'm half joking, but I did think it had to evaluate conversation. Only 13 at bats in spring training so far. Will Benson's got a nice solid OPS over 1.179 right now, baby. Are we getting the comeback train? Is Will Benson coming back from his rookie year?
You sound like another podcast host.
Does he look like me?
No, he doesn't look like you at all. You've worked with him before. But no, listen, I'm the type of guy who will never root against someone that's on my team, because he plays well. That's good for my favorite team.
Exactly.
Okay? And the next point is, I actually enjoyed watching him 2 years ago. He was exciting.
He was fun.
He brought energy. Won't Vince? I guess it's never me rooting against a guy. It's just more me thinking what's realistic. And I just don't see it. I don't know what he's done to try to reverse what happened last year. And I don't think Will Benson will be a factor for the Reds this year.
Yeah, I can't imagine he's going to be a full-time player, but just being excited. I know, again, 13 at-bats in spring training does not tell us the whole story.
All right, let me ask you a question. If Steer can't play outfield, or even if he's on the IL to start the season, which looks likely, that means he's one less outfielder.
Yeah.
So now you have Friedel, Hayes, Fraley, Benson, Fairchild. Am I missing anyone?
Did we say Hayes? You said Hayes, right?
I did. That's five outfielders, of which I thought Benson and or Fairchild would not make this team this year.
Same.
At the end of last year, I thought we would not have either of them on the opening day roster because they would have made more than just one move to add a player. What do? Is that it? Do you have to, at that point, do you have to platoon? You're basically platooning Fraley, Benson, and Fairchild in right field.
Blake Dunn and Jacob Hurtubise again, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, the vibes are getting worse.
Yeah.
But that sells the point because they didn't get enough outfield. If they come into camp and if Steer could play outfield, I wouldn't be that worried at all because I think Hayes and Steer are everyday players.
Me too.
And then all of a sudden you bat Friedel against most lefties, but you could start Fairchild in center field if you have to about maybe a third of the time against lefties.
Yeah.
And then Benson might not make the team.
We'll just hope there's not a deep pop fly for Stuart Fairchild with his noodle arm to hit the cutoff man.
Yeah, and I guess in Great American Ballpark, that's not as big a problem, but
yeah. So I joke about, I don't know if I'll tell the story before we get out of here. We got a comment on last year on a video where we were talking about the outfield, and someone was mad at me because I talked about Jay Allen and Hector Rodriguez before I even mentioned Blake Dunn and Jacob Hurtubise, and told me I need to do my homework because these guys are the future of the outfield for the Reds.
Well, if you're going by the Reds' inability or unwillingness to sign major league caliber outfielders, then I suppose we should just take that, sandwich and just eat it. But but if those two guys are the future of the Reds outfield,
we got problems.
Then there's more problems because that's the thing that gets me the most, Tim, is they've shored up the infield depth. Espinal is your backup. Like he won't be playing. Espinal and Lux and then Trevino, if you think about the infield and the catching position, I don't think, starter through backup, I don't think the Reds have been deeper in the last 10 to 15 years.
Agreed.
And even we talked about that last week on the show, whereas obviously Votto and Phillips and Roland and
Frazier
and Frazier, like there was better quality maybe at the top across the board, but then you're bringing in these journeymen that might not play. Like how many times do we have a backup shortstop that never played for another team after his 1 or 2 years here? So from that standpoint, they've done so much better at building it up. Wilson Valdez.
He played in like Puerto Rico.
But the outfield is just the opposite.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about an outfield they used to have. Like,
some of the guys they played Santiago Espinal in right field last year, and he had never played in the outfield in Major League Baseball before.
I honestly might think they have to do that against lefties some this year.
You're right.
I just don't see it. I don't see it. If Spencer Steer is injured and he can't play the outfield, yeah, Hayes and Friedel are everyday players. I agree with that.
Yeah, I do too.
But Josh is saying there's a right field platoon, but I don't like the options.
Yeah, I'm not super excited about Jake Fraley. Now maybe last year was just kind of he had a lot of personal stuff happened, and maybe now he can put that behind him and have a good year again and focus more on baseball. But he still can't hit lefties.
But Josh is saying it's a right field platoon, but the right-handed bat is Stuart Fairchild.
Yeah. They're certainly better right-handed bats.
What did Stephen Offenbaker call him? Freychild? That was his platoon?
Yeah.
Freychild?
That was pretty funny. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes, but I'm not super optimistic either. I hope I'm wrong because I obviously, like you said, if they're wearing our team's uniform, I want them to do well. You mentioned like 1 year guys that like always cracked me up. Do you remember Derek Robinson?
Oh, man. Yeah, I haven't thought of him in a long time, but yes.
Literally 1 year in the majors with the Cincinnati Reds in 2013. there was games where he was playing center field because they thought Shin-Soo couldn't, and they would put Shin-Soo in left field, if you remember.
Uh-huh.
Because Shu was like playing center field for the Reds, which was
Well,
you know.
yeah, 'cause I remember. Actually, I saw my Facebook memories a few weeks ago when or like a month or so ago when they made that trade. And it's like, okay, Stubbs is gone. That's fine. I'm excited to have Chu's bat, but I remember saying, who plays center field? And some people are like, oh, it's just gonna be Chu. It's fine. I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
But
It's fine in Cincinnati, but not when they go out to like play the Giants and the.
Oh my goodness, no.
Yeah, I remember Drew was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go play center field for the Indians," and I was like, "Nope, we got Michael Bourne. You're going to right field."
Yeah, he and I talked about that. That was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I think we might just have to go ahead and wrap this because we didn't get all the calls we wanted, but we did get a lot of fun interaction from the chat.
Let's look at Joey Goodite says, where does Lux play the most? Question mark. Third base? I don't think he has the arm to play the most at third base. Carlos Caveira's here.
Look at that. Hey, he had his son's first game of the season was tonight. So
cool, man.
How was that, buddy? How did it go? I texted him earlier to see if he wanted to join us for this, and he said he was coaching some baseball tonight. So
all right.
Can't be mad at that.
No.
Oh man. Well, for Gavin Lux, I don't know. I feel like it's probably going to be first base for a while if Spencer Steer's not able to play. It sounds like CES is doing a lot of third base. Oh, next subject. So I guess it wasn't Carlos's kids' family's night at the old ball yard.
You know what? The thing with Lux at first base that makes me kind of chuckle to myself. Actually, the first game Spencer Steer ever hit a home run, we were sitting along the dugout there on the third base side against the Rockies, and Bud Black was right there. He's the manager, and he's talking to his bench coach and a couple other coaches right there. And we had, what was his name? The guy that went to the Twins. Oh,
Farm Dog?
No. Man, he had a really cool nickname. Now I'm blanking. I can't believe I'm messing this up. Anyway, he would play first base at the end of that year in 22. And Bud Black,
you're talking about.
Bud Black said they've got the shortest first baseman in baseball. And just we heard him say it. And then a few minutes later, all of a sudden a ball went right over his head and he couldn't get to it. And now it's killing me that I can't remember his name. So
Hold on. I'm pulling up the baseball reference now. 2022. God, that. Oof.
But yeah.
Solano.
So yeah. Donnie Barrels. So Solano, I don't know how much shorter he is than Gavin Lux, but he's not much shorter if he is shorter.
Had a pretty decent year for the Padres last year, looking at his baseball reference page. Really not a bad hitter.
Oh, I liked him. He was fun.
Yeah, he's not a bad hitter. I don't know about his fielding, but, not a bad hitter.
No doubt.
Yeah. All right, dude. Well, I think we can roll this. We can wrap this up now, right?
All right.
Anything?
I mean, the people didn't want to talk to us as much as we thought. There's some good chat. I really love it. But maybe if we do this again, we can get more actual viewers on the actual screen.
That'd be fun. So, hey, like we said, I will be back on Sunday with Late Night Reds. Will be Ben and I. We're getting preview for third base. So bring your third base hot takes, and don't ask me about anything else.
I'm comfortable announcing that the scheduled guest for your next Red.
Oh yeah, this is big.
On March 18th, we'll release that. You're jumping off the screen?
No, I'm giving you the solo shot.
On March 18th, we're going to have George Grand. So I'm excited. I'm excited. I got a little kind of tired maybe of George when the team wasn't that great and he was always so sunshiny happy. But in the long run, I really respect the job he did, and certainly so many people really like him so much and adore him. So I'm really looking forward to chatting with him.
Who was born closer on third base, Phil Castellini or the Lakers?
Phil was born on third base.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Probably the Lakers, right? Because it's like people just always shop in their lap.
The only one that didn't was Chris Paul.
That's right. It did, and then it was taken out of their lap.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Like I said, this was something we were just experimenting with while we're killing time for the season starts. But keep an eye out. We're going to keep doing some really fun stuff. Like Seth said, George Grand coming up. I got Late Night Reds coming back on this Sunday, like always, and we'll keep this rolling. So on behalf of Seth Shaner and everyone here at the Riverfront, this is Tim Daniel. Have a good night, everyone.